Hey guys, how you doing? This is Andrew Sims with the Sims Consulting Group. And on this Wisdom Wizard, we're going to talk about supply chain management, right? And some of the tips and tools that you can use when it comes to supply chain planning, right? Or really to understand where your business falls within, your competition as it relates to your supply chain system or your supply chain process. And all that simply means is how you get your products from inception to the consumer, right? And all those things in between. And a lot of times we may think that we're doing good. We may think that we're the fastest or we have the best product. We have the best situation in terms of how the customer is going to receive the goods and services that we supply. But it's really in relation to what the marketplace says, right? And what I mean by that is you may think a 10-day window is a great amount of time for getting your product built, put into place, shipped, and then actually delivered to your customers. So from start to finish, that process may take 10 days, when industry standard may be 7 or 5. So what you're asking your customer to do, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but in a consumer's mind, asking them to wait 3 days is a big difference, right? So when there are three things that we want to look at, and this is really for smaller organizations. If you notice in today's marketplace, you have a lot of online retailers that are small business owners and things like that that sell t-shirts, widgets, gadgets, products, all kinds of things, right? And sometimes they're making their own product, so their supply chain management system is really them. But there are other organizations that rely on a third party to produce their product and then get it to their consumer. They used to call this drop shipping, or things like that. And I know that's kind of a little bit dated, but you still want to look at your business from a supply chain standpoint with three basic components that you want to use to really understand where you stand as an organization in the marketplace, and also how this is going to get better, how you're going to reduce time, how you're going to reduce costs, and how you reduce bottlenecks and things like that from getting your product designed and built or shipped or serviced, right, to the customer, right? I'm gonna say that again. So it's really about how long does it take, or what is the process from getting your actual product designed, put together, and then shipped to your customer. So from start to finish, what does that process look like? And that is your supply chain process, right? Or your supply chain management. You got systems that do that and things like that. It kind of coincides with logistics, but there are some things that we want to heighten, or really point to when we look at both of those topics. So the three components that I want you to look at as a small business really are time, cost, and the overall product process. What do I mean by that? For instance, time. We just talked about it. Hey, I have competitors that can get their product from supplier or third party retailer to the actual consumer in 4 to 5 days. My system, my process takes 10. How do I shorten that time span? Right? So that's one of the questions you got to ask yourself. The time. How long does it first, you need to know on average, and I know for different locations and different, you know, products, it's going to be a little different. But what's my average time from building the product, getting it together, manufacturing the product, getting it together, and then getting it to consumer? What's that average time span? That's step one. What is the cost of doing that, right? What is the cost of goods, right? The cost of goods doing this, right? How much does it cost me? And are there ways to reduce that cost, right? Do I need to buy in bulk? Do I need to find another supplier? Do I need to find another person to manufacture it? Whatever it is, right? How do I reduce the cost? How do I reduce the time spent that it takes to get it from manufacturer to consumer? That's the first thing. And then how do I reduce the cost? And then the process. Are there any improvements I can make to the process, which will then in turn give me a better product at the final stage? Meaning, hey, thread. If you're talking about clothes, do we use the right thread? Is there a machine that we could buy that could assemble these? If I'm making toys? Is there a machine that I can buy that can put together these toys faster, therefore creating, reducing the cost of manpower, reducing the cost of hourly, like I said, hourly manpower when it comes to building these things or running these machines? Can I produce more with the same amount of time, right? Can I double my production, which then will double my sales, which then will double my profits, which will then double my organization size, right? There are things like that. Can I realistically handle any more business when you look at your supply chain system? Because again, you may be operating on a 7 day window, right? With this amount of with a certain specific customer base, meaning, hey, I'm on a 7 day window and I have 100,000 customers, and my process is not really designed to handle any more than that. I'm at the maximum with what I do and how I produce these things. I can't stretch it any further. So literally, while most people would think 150,000 or 50,000 more customers would be a blessing, for you it can close the doors. So you really want to understand where you stand in the supply chain process. And again, I'll go to the 3 points again. It's time, cost, and I'm gonna add a fourth one. We have the process, but what about reliability? How reliable are those manufacturers? How reliable are those suppliers? Like, let's say you make t-shirts, and all you do, you put your design on a t-shirt, you hire another third party company to produce your t-shirts and then ship it to your customer. Are orders constantly being, are there issues with orders? Are there issues with sizes? Are there issues with supply? Specifically now that we're in this kind of this we have labor needs as a country, right? We need to get more people back to work. Suppliers all over the place, right? From your grocery store to your gas station to everything's being affected because labor is not, people are not in the labor market like they were right before the pandemic. So a lot of things are taking a lot longer to produce and then get out the door to the grocery stores. They're having shipments that are being missed and things like that because labor is at an all time, well, not an all time low, but it's lower than what we actually needed to be in order to keep this system rolling like it normally does. So you really want to look at those things, because one is going to tell you where you stand as an organization, right? You may not be the fastest, but you may have better quality. You may not have the best quality, but your process is great. All you need to do is improve on quality. So that little supply chain triangle, I want to call it, right? We got that third one, reliability, which is really going to go into process. If you want to be all, if you want to keep it with one of the three within the triangle, you will put that with process. So at the top, you'll have time, to the right, you'll have cost, and to the left, you'll have really process, right? And in that process portion, we're going to include supplier reliability and things like that. Because if you don't have those components and you don't understand those components, you're not able to, one of the great things about Walmart, one of the things that allows them to have great prices, one is their ability to buy, right? Their ability to buy big, which gives them discounts on the items that they buy. The other thing is how they move their products. Before again the pandemic, you would very rarely see empty shelves in a Walmart. No matter how many people you see go in there a day, no matter how many people, leave with bags, for some reason, it'll get restocked overnight. And that's because they have what you call a stellar supply chain system. They were one of the best in the world at the supply chain process, which kept them being the go-to place because you knew there was a great chance for Walmart to have what it was that you were looking for. Because they had hubs, they had, they had trucks constantly going. The way they ran their trucking routes, the way the suppliers actually gave them the goods and the locations of their warehouses and things like that. All of those things were scrutinized to a point where they were the best at it. And as a small business, you may not have the logistics team that they have, but at the end of the day, you know your product. You should know your product and you should know all the ins and outs, not necessarily how to sew a shirt or things like that, but how many suppliers do you have? Do you just have the one? And if that one decides to have a bad month, right, and they're not producing, does that mean the end of your business, or do you have two? Do you have three? Are you constantly analyzing how you could better produce your product? Are you constantly analyzing how can I make this faster? Maybe my manufacturer is on the West Coast and my client base is on the East Coast. Maybe I can cut out 2 or 3 days by just finding a supplier that can produce the same product at the same rate or cheaper because it's closer, right? And I can produce them on the East Coast, right? Now I cut out that cross country time, or maybe they may cost a little more on the East Coast. Let's say the cost of living, let's say that the cost of the product is a little higher, but do I save money on shipping? And I get it there faster. So what I'm saying to you is there's a bunch of ways to organize your supply chain management process, your supply chain system that goes into your supply chain planning, but you have to understand those components. Time, cost, process, which we're going to include reliability of manufacturer, however you want to say it, into that. Because if you don't understand those things, you really don't know how your company works, and you really don't understand your company's vulnerabilities. You know, and when you're in real estate, right, and you have contractors, they say you need to have three of each, right? Three of everything. Three contractors, three suppliers, right? And that's true across the board. You don't want to put all your company's success eggs in one basket. So you're constantly moving around these pieces. Not, I wouldn't say constantly. Reassess it quarterly. How are we doing? How are our customers feeling about we do about the service that we're providing? What are our competitors doing? If I wanted to order a shirt similar to this, right? How long would it take for me to get it? And then what kind of quality would I get? Where do you rank in the marketplace, right? You want to understand these things because again, consumer experience is tied to this whole process. And the better the consumer experience, the more likely there are to be they are to be loyal and return customers. So once again, this is Andrew Sims with the Sims Consulting Group, and this is really supply chain management tips for small businesses. It's more we can get into, it's a lot more we can dive into, but there are three things we need to understand. Time, the time it takes to produce and get it, the total time from manufacturing it to getting it to the consumer. The cost, what does that cost look like? And then the process, what does that process look like, and how reliable are the manufacturers and things that we have playing a part in that process? And do we need to duplicate? Do we need some redundancy, right? In order to make sure that if one falls, we're still in business. We don't close our doors because one person or one manufacturer couldn't do what we needed them to do. And then, there are variables that you can play with in order to better serve your customer. But once again, this is Andrew Sims with the Sims Consulting Group. Y'all be blessed, man. I got some emails coming in. You hear them. Y'all be blessed, man. I'm sorry I couldn't get this to you sooner. I got it sooner to some than I did others. But at the end of the day, well, I should say some sites or social media platforms, whatever you want to call them. But once again, this is Andrew Sims with the Sims Consulting Group, man. Understand how your business works and make it better. Peace.